All right, let's continue our plumbing endeavor and get this water pump tested. What is that? Yay, one more thing to fix. Back in 2017, I began a full restoration of my 96 Bayliner by tearing it apart all the way down to the hull. From there, I began the rebuilding process, which included learning to fiberglass, rebuilding an engine and outdrive, learning to fair and paint, and even upholstery. Now, I've bought a 28-foot cabin cruiser, and I'm starting all over. Welcome, my name's Jared. Now get ready, because it's going to be a ship show. All right, what is going on, everybody? My name is Jared, and welcome back to the channel. In this episode, we are going to tackle some plumbing things that are on the priority list. Some of these things you might not think would be, because I don't absolutely need water and plumbing and all that stuff to launch a boat. But the bigger issue is, again, as a lot of these things I've been doing lately, without the engine in there, it's going to be so much easier. So I'm tackling this stuff now while I have easy access. So the first thing we're going to dive into is the vent line for the blackwater tank. The blackwater tank was mostly installed in a previous episode, but one thing I didn't do was get the vent line installed, and mostly because I didn't realize I didn't have any hose left, so I had to order more. And as part of that routing of that tubing for the vent line, I also installed a vent line filter. So I think I talked about that a little bit in a previous episode. The point of that, it's basically like a charcoal canister that is supposed to absorb smells. So when you're docked next to somebody else, hopefully other people have it too, because I mean, your vent line's coming right out the side of the boat, so you got a odor situation going on. So that's to help alleviate any smells, things like that, from coming out from your vent line. So we routed the 5/8 line along the existing suction line for pumping out the blackwater tank. Basically just use zip ties. I'm trying to keep the screws to a minimum where I don't need them, just for penetrations on wood and preventing rot, things like that. So if I can use cable ties, I'm going to try and use them where I can. So ran that 5/8 line along the existing pump out line, because it's basically going to the same place up to the vent fitting on the side of the boat. So ran that. That was obviously no major issues. And then we installed the vent filter kind of right dead center on the bulkhead in front of the engine, so be easy access in the future. And this filter is really nice because it comes with two basically almost like garden hose style fittings. They just screw on hand tight. So it's really easy in the future to replace that filter, which should be done like yearly, but we'll see. So with the vent filter installed, let's go work on the DC water pump. Check that thing out. This right here is said water pump. This is obviously the DC pump that pulls water from the onboard tank, freshwater tank, and supplies it to the water piping for the faucet, shower, or whatever, when you're not hooked up to city water at the dock. This was just sitting in the bilge. I'd never removed it. I removed the water lines going to it, but I just kind of assumed, which is usually the first problem, that it was working fine. But when I was taking care of some stuff in the bilge the other day, I decided to give it a closer look and figured I should probably at least give it a good test before I just assume any longer that it's good. And to do that, I removed it from the boat. It was just four quick screws, and removed the wiring, which, like I said, the water lines were already removed, so I didn't have to worry about that. And they also have these nice like quick disconnect features on here, which even if the water lines were connected would have made that super easy. So once I got it out of the boat, I actually didn't even notice this until it was sitting on my bench. And this piece right here, you're not really gonna be able to see it in this picture, but this is cracked. Obviously that's no good. And this little cover here as well, I wasn't really sure what this was, to be honest with you, at first. So I started removing the screws that held this thing on, and quickly discovered that it is a pressure switch. There actually should be two wires coming out of here. So normally the power wire would feed into the pressure switch and then come out of the pressure switch and go to the positive wire on the pump itself. So obviously when the pressure drops below a certain point, it triggers the pump to turn on. And as that pressure spikes and goes back up to whatever the set pressure is of that switch, it will turn off the pump. Now, those wires weren't even there, and as I took this cover off, they were so corroded that those wires had actually completely come off of their terminals inside of here. So this pressure switch obviously needs replaced. After doing some digging, on the internets, I determined that this is the pressure switch I need, which is a 35 PSI pressure switch, which is what is listed on the motor nameplate here. So let's dig into here and get this one off. Okay, so the first thing I'm gonna do is there's a screw on this cover that I'm gonna remove. Let me flip this around so you can see. That cover comes off. That screw comes out. Here you can see those two terminals for the pressure switch and the wire. They're so corroded that the wire literally wasn't attached anymore. There's two other screws outboard here, and one of the ears for these is actually broken, which is what I noticed in the first place. So there's your pressure switch. So that is the pressure switch off. Now I think there's also a diaphragm. Yeah. Oh, there we go. Okay. Yeah, so there's the actual diaphragm in there too. That's what I believe when the pressure pushes the diaphragm out, that actually presses in on this switch, and that is basically how it operates. Let's go ahead and install the new one. So basically now all we need to do is put the new switch on, and in order to do that, we need to choose one of these three membranes that it comes with. So if you're using this for potable water, you just want to use the E. It has a little E on it, and that basically represents EPDM rubber. So that is for the potable water. The V is Viton, which I believe was recommended for, what was it? This is for high temperature and chemical applications. Obviously doesn't apply here. And then the B is for Buna N rubber, which is for petrochemicals. Obviously, again, doesn't apply here. This is just a potable water pump. So we are going to use E, take our new pressure switch, and this gets installed with this, like the little lip, like kind of the negative side of this goes over top the pressure switch like that. And then we're just going to go ahead and reinstall it on the pump. Did come with new screws, but I'm not going to use those because I can tell looking at these side by side with the old ones that the new ones are zinc plated steel, and the old ones I can tell looking at them are stainless. So I'm going to use the old ones. Come on, FlowJet, cheaping out on me. So I think you actually need to take this cap off to get access to those screw holes completely. So let's remove that one, pop this cap off, then we'll insert our stainless screws with that cap removed. Then we will screw in the new one. Okay, once again, I believe this new one is coated steel and the old one appears to be stainless. So I'm going to be going on with the old screw. Okay, so that part was easy. Now it's just a matter of wiring it in. So there is no polarity to these wires. It's literally just a switch. Okay, I actually took the cover back off the pressure switch. It came with these little pieces of wire already attached to it, and also these additional pieces. I don't like the idea of having a connection point, like an additional one within a couple inches of this terminal. So what I want to do is make my own leads for these terminals so I can extend them further up away from the pump and put them in the conduit for the wiring, just to help protect them a little bit more. Probably being way overkill with that, but it doesn't take that much time. Plus these terminals I have are heat shrink, a little bit more weather tight, and clearly the failure mode on this last pressure switch was corrosion on those terminals. So anything I can do to help keep that connection a little bit drier and safer is obviously going to pay off in the long run, because again, that was the failure mode. So I got a piece of 16 gauge anchor marine wire here, a couple of heat shrink terminals. So I'm going to go ahead and get these crimped on, and then we'll install them on the terminals. So on this lid, the cover for this, I actually did have to take a drill bit and there we go. I did have to kind of widen those slots for the wires to come through, because with the insulated terminals, they were bigger than the originals. With those widened out though, whoops, this should fit okay now. Let's get the screw back in. Okay. And it looks like I could remove a little bit more material, so I will do that. If that focuses, you can see there's still a little bit of a gap between there and the cap. So, okay, just one last thing I want to do before I put this cap on permanently, and that is I'm going to put a little bit of dielectric grease on those terminals, because Again, that was the failure point in the past, so obviously moisture is a potential issue. I think the insulated terminals are going to make a big difference, but one extra step isn't going to hurt. So let's get a little bit of dielectric grease in there. Okay, here's one. Let's get this screw in. Now it's closed up nice and tight. Okay, so with our extended wires installed, I'm just going to run them like that and probably put a zip tie around the body just to hold them kind of out of the way. Then we should be good. That is the wiring complete. It's getting late, it's dark out, so I'm gonna wait till tomorrow, but we will then, let's pressure test this thing. Well, let's test its function in general, make sure the pump actually works, and we'll see if the pressure switch works. See you tomorrow. All right, as you saw there, the water pump tested, worked out okay. I was kind of nervous there for a second because water wasn't coming out, but it just needed primed. Now, that was a little weird because I thought diaphragm pumps were self-priming and it was kind of struggling, but maybe it just needs a little bit of lubrication there to kind of help it get along. So we'll keep an eye on that, see how it's going in the future, but so far it seems to be working okay. So let's go ahead and get that thing reinstalled in the boat. Now we're back up on the boat, and I started by putting the pump back in its original orientation. Now while that pump was out, I installed some of that cable raceway, and I apparently got it a little bit too close because the pump doesn't fit in its original kind of vertical orientation. So I decided to mount it horizontally, which I looked at the manual, it doesn't say anything about you can't do that. And the other nice thing about this is now the intake side is on the top, and I have the hose going into it kind of up at an arc. So that should actually act sort of as like a little bit of a check valve and should hold a little bit of water there, so that should help with priming in the future instead of having the inlet side drain back down. So I think that should work out well. But anyway, we got the pump installed, the 4 screws back on the rubber isolated feet. Now it was time to install the, like I said before, the inlet side, which has like a strainer basket built into it. Takes yeah, that was another thing. Takes 1/2 inch hose. I forgot about that, and I ran 5/8 all the way up to the water tank, which isn't a bad thing. It's actually good to have it a little bit oversized if you can, but I had to adapt it down to 1/2 inch. So I put in a hose adapter to go from 5/8 down to 1/2 inch, hose clamped that up, and then ran that to the inlet strainer. Got that installed, and that is ready to go. Next, I needed to finish up the wiring, get it reintegrated back into the existing harness. And this time, instead of just using crimp like butt connectors, which is what was in there before, I decided for 2 reasons to put in spade fittings, spade terminal connections. One is obviously in the future, if I need to remove it to replace or rebuild anything, it's going to make that a little bit easier. I don't have to clip the wires. And also, I didn't have any butt connectors left, so I need to add that to my list of things to order. So it should be okay. It's pretty well protected from the elements, so I'm not too worried about corrosion, but we'll keep an eye on it. But anyway, the pump is now in, wired, and as far as I know, working. So the last thing I want to jump into plumbing related is in the engine compartment. So let's go take a look at that. guys, now that we have the vent line installed for the blackwater tank and the new gas line, fill line, and vent installed to the gas tank, the next thing I want to move on to plumbing related is I'm going to be replacing all of the PEX that's running through the engine compartment. Not that there's anything wrong that I can tell, like I don't think it's leaking or anything, but a lot of it's pretty gross looking. And I know I can flush some bleach through there, and I plan on doing that anyway, but PEX is cheap. I have the tool to crimp it. So, oh, the other big reason is the existing setup here, if you can see that connects to the hot water heater. It's a little bit different now that I have a different check valve in there and some other things have changed. So it doesn't really fit very well. I could probably make it fit, but it's kind of janky. And I never really liked this whole situation anyway, so I'm gonna try and clean that up. So what I plan on doing is I have these quick connect fittings. They're like the push lock, and then they have these rings that you tighten down to lock it in place so it can't come off. So it's a little bit more secure than just a regular shark bite. What I plan on doing with these is cutting the 2 PEX lines in there, which is underneath the aft cabin. There's an access hole in there that I can get to. I'm gonna cut them, install these in there. And part of the reason I'm putting them in there is just because, one, these are a little bit bulky and out of the way, but the other thing is this line here, which is the cold line that comes this goes to the pump that we just installed, and there's a T like right where it comes out, so there's not enough material there for me to cut the old PEX and slide this on without potentially it kind of falling into the hole of no return. So I'm gonna install these back in there, run the new PEX back in, and then we'll be able to work around the engine compartment. So there's not a whole lot of stuff going on back here. It shouldn't take all that long. Honestly, the biggest problem is probably gonna be getting the crimp tool into some of these positions, but for the most part, it shouldn't be too bad. So anyways, let's get going. Let's get in the aft cabin. I'm gonna get these installed. Alright guys, I think that's going to be enough for this video. It's going to be getting a little bit long, so we're going to wrap it up here. Feels awesome to have all of that plumbing stuff done. I know I didn't really need to do the PEX stuff, but seeing the new clean stuff in place makes me feel something in here. So I'm happy I did it. So I know we still need to pressure test it, but I'm going to save that for a future video. I'm going to make note of that on my to-do list. But having that PEX done, the vent line installed, the fuel hose installed to the tank, that's awesome. Oh yeah, remember that episode a couple ago where I said I had some gas to get rid of? Well, kind of looks like I got some grass to replace up there. That was fun. So anyway, got the old gas out, so the tank's ready to go. So with that stuff being done, let's take a look at my plumbing list and see what we can cross off. Blackwater tank install and plumbing. Sharpie doesn't work. Okay. Vent filter. Check. Fuel fill and vent hose. Check. Water heater. Check. Water pump. Check. And under the engine category, drain the fuel tank. Check. And I know I said I was going to end this video because it was getting long, and now I'm talking nonstop and making it even longer. So I'm going to shut up. We're going to wrap this video up here. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Leave a comment down below. I answer as many as I can. And until the next one, thanks for watching, guys. Bye.